Joining us now on the line is the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation, Steve Moore, good friend of this program. You know, you're still a contributor over at the Wall Street Journal, but you're making the move over to Heritage. Just give us the update on why you made that move there, Steve.
Hey, good morning, guys. Well, look, Heritage is the preeminent conservative think tank in this country, and I really wanted to help them move the ball on all these huge issues that are facing us, everything from income inequality to, the debt, to cutting spending, to getting growth up after this miserable performance. So I'm excited to be there. It's a bit of a homecoming. My first job in Washington was working at the Heritage 30 years ago.
You've come full circle.
I have.
All right, listen, tomorrow we're going to hear the president go to Capitol Hill, and there's two things that one hears about his speech. One is that he probably will talk about income inequality and also how he plans to do things without Congress.
Yeah, I was struck by some of the statements by White House officials this weekend and the president himself saying, look, if I can't get this done through Congress, I'm just going to do it myself unilaterally. I mean, this is a president who believes that he doesn't need Congress. We don't have any separation of powers anymore. The presidency is now not just the executive branch, but apparently it's the legislative branch as well. It's a scary idea. I'm surprised the press hasn't called him out more on that. I mean, can you imagine if George W. Bush made these declarations that I don't need Congress, I'm just going to do everything I want to do through executive orders?
Well, in fact, ironically, then Senator Obama often took to the well of the Senate to criticize President Obama for circumventing the legislative branch. So I guess everything looks different when you're sitting behind the Oval Office.
By the way, you're exactly right about that. And, of course, the most embarrassing thing for the White House is that when you talk about then Senator Obama going to the Senate floor, I mean, he was the most vocal critic of raising the debt ceiling without some kind of conditions attached. Remember, he said, "Oh my God,
right.
The massive increase in debt under George Bush. This is like treason, and we can't possibly give him a blank check." And of course, now the president is saying, "If I don't get a blank check from Congress, I'm not going to sign a debt ceiling." So. This guy flips his positions all the time.
Steve Moore, let's stick with that State of the Union address that happens tomorrow night. We're kind of sort of starting our preview right now, and of course we'll have extensive coverage here on Mornings on the Mall tomorrow morning.
Can I just halt you right there? Why does this guy even need to give a State of the Union? We've heard this already for 4 years.
Yeah, there's nothing new about what we're hearing. That's right.
Steve Moore unplugged. You get him over to Heritage, and he just takes the show over. Look at Steve Moore go.
I mean, we've heard this stuff year after year after year. I predict to you guys there's going to be nothing new in this speech. Everything that he's going to say are the things that he said before. Income inequality, we need more spending, the Republicans are evil, all of this stuff. He's talking about another massive stimulus spending to get the economy growing faster, despite the fact that his policies have led to the slowest expansion out of a recovery since the Great Depression.
Sure, and so many, we have a record number of people out of the job market. At least since 1978, we have more people out of the job market. Everybody knows that the jobs picture is one of the biggest problems with the economy right now. We're going to have 3 Republican responses so far already. So, Steve Moore, if you were giving the Republican response, or if you were advising them, and frankly, now that you're at Heritage Foundation, you are advising.
You know what? If I were going to advise Congress, I'd say have 1,
right?
Not 3. It expresses exactly what's wrong with the Republican Party.
Well, and to be fair, the party is having 1 response. The other 2 are Tea Party groups and such. But Steve Moore, if they could communicate one idea to the American people about what could fix the jobs problem in America, what would you suggest they communicate?
Well, I like what my old boss at the Wall Street Journal, Dan Henninger, wrote several months ago, which is his advice to Barack Obama, which is the advice I would give, is, Mr. President, look at everything you did in your first term and do exactly the opposite in your second term.
Yeah.
Right? Because nothing you did in the first term really worked to make the economy grow. And you guys made a good point about, the fact that unemployment is still the big issue. And, officially we're now below 7% unemployment. You saw the numbers that came out a couple weeks ago.
But not really, though.
Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that, because if you take the real unemployment rate, people dropping out of the workforce, people who can't find a full-time job, we're still at close to 9 to 10%, with close to 20 million people without a full-time job in this country. And that is a travesty. And the president talks about income inequality. One other point I'd make, if I were the Republicans, wait a minute, income inequality has gone up faster under this president than any president since Woodrow Wilson.
Right, and so, but his response is, that's because you're not doing enough of my policies. That seems to be
because what he's saying essentially is the $5 trillion of debt we incurred, that wasn't enough to make the economy grow. We've got to incur another couple $1 trillion. I mean, you can't prove these guys wrong, right? Because if their policies don't work, they just say we didn't do enough.
We didn't do enough of it. That's right. Now,
right.
Hey, the Wall Street didn't look very good last week. What do you think about all that?
Look, I'm still bullish on the economy. You may remember I was on the show right before the end of the new year last year, and I think the economy is going to be fine this year. It's not going to be great, but we're going to get 3% growth, and after the miserable performance we've had over the last 4 years, that's going to feel pretty good. So I do think we're going to see a bit of a pickup in the economy. By the way, guys, the reason that businesses are starting to expand is because Washington is paralyzed. They can't do any bad things anymore.
I saw this morning that Caterpillar exceeded expectations, and they always say, well, Caterpillar, that's a bellwether stock.
Well, it is. It really is. I mean, that's a company that makes tractors and makes farm equipment and all of this stuff. I think you're going to see the American companies today are the best run companies in the world. It makes you proud to be an American to see how well American companies run today. All they need to expand faster, guys, is get the government the hell out of the way.
I am always suspicious of studies, Steve Moore, unless it matches with common sense. And there's a new study out of Harvard that suggests that, yes, there is a problem with kids being held back by this economy, but it's not because of income inequality. What holds back kids more than anything else is coming out of a single-parent home. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, we've known that, by the way, for years and years, that the reason you get people trapped in the bottom 20%, and that's a horrible thing. We want to be an opportunity society, but when you've got, more than a third of kids in America, and in some areas, 2/3 of kids growing up without a father, it's like growing up with two strikes against you, and that is a tragedy. So what I guess I'm saying is that the problem with income inequality is more of social dysfunction more than it is a problem of the economy.
Not likely to hear about that in the President's State of the Union.
All right.
Steve Moore, thank you, sir.
What was it that Murphy Brown, remember? Oh, it's fine to have children out of wedlock. No, it isn't. It's a bad thing, and it hurts the kids.
Steve, always a pleasure, and congratulations on your new gig.
Thanks. See you guys soon.